Hey there, and welcome to the Spirituality Podcast. My name is James M. Powell, the Spirituality Coach, and today we're joined by Sir Darren Jacklin. Sir Darren Jacklin was knighted by the royal family of Spain after being selected out of 400 nominees worldwide. In his early years, after being misdiagnosed with ADHD in school, which Darren calls attention developed to a higher dimension, he was put on Ritalin and was told by his careers advisor that out of everyone in school, he would be the least likely to succeed at anything in life. While sleeping homeless and eating leftovers from bins out of the back of restaurants, Darren decided not to crash his car with him in it into a telephone pole and then bumped into his first mentor, who invited him to a public speaking training seminar, where after nervously presenting from stage, he was told that one day he will be a world-class speaker. Fast forward to today, and Darren has trained over 1 million people worldwide, and he has been hired by over 150 Fortune 500 companies to mitigate risk and measurably improve their performance. Darren has helped grow a startup to $1 billion publicly trading on the NASDAQ in just under 5 years, which got invited to ring the closing bell 2 years in a row, which no other company has ever done before. Through his non-profit charity Link Foundation, LY2NK, or Leaders Yielding to New Knowledge, in which everyone involved are volunteers and nobody gets paid, Darren helps elevate the accessibility and level of learning for students in Africa with a focus on life skills and entrepreneurship by building more resources and creating sustainable solutions within their own culture. So with that being said, let's welcome Sir Darren Jacklin.
I'm grateful to be here, James.
My first question I'd like to ask you is, as well as your personal relationships, of course, what's the thing that comes first place for you in your life? What's most important to you?
What's most important to me? I would say freedom and being able to live life on my own terms, to go wherever I want, whenever I want, however I want, with whomever I want, on my terms. I think going to bed when I'm tired and waking up when I'm done sleeping and not being told what to do. Because a good portion of my life growing up, I was always told what to do. You know, I was micromanaged in the school system. I was micromanaged in different jobs I've had in the past. And I just like to, I like to do things on my own terms. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I live my life with an integrity, but I like to be creative in that areas and just be linear, but also non-linear.
How do you structure your day then based on freedom? Like you have a set timer when you wake up, or is it just as to you when you feel?
Yeah, so I have everything structured. I actually live my life by a calendar. So every Sunday I have recurring time that's time blocked in my calendar every Sunday. And I sit down and plan my schedule out every week from Sunday to Saturday, each calendar week. And that 7-day schedule from Sunday to Saturday, what that does is that everything I do during the waking hours of my day is structured into my milestones and my metrics in regards to my monthly, quarterly, 6 months, and annual targets and goals in my life. And then that goes into my, 3-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, my master plan for my life. So it's all very strategic because it's all about qualifying my time and protecting my time. And so what I do is I only focus on high leverage activities. Anything that does not give me a return on energy, I delegate. I automate or I eliminate my life. I delegate low priority activities. So things that do not fill my value system, that do not energize me, that stimulate me intellectually, that bore me, I delegate them. I eliminate those tasks. I only do things. So I focus in my businesses on income producing activities. I focus on wealth building because I've committed, the next decade to give $100 million away of money towards global philanthropy projects. So I focus on primarily wealth building. So I focus on, revenue generating activities throughout the day, passive income producing activities, and wealth building activities. So my typical day is, dealing with the different boards of directors that I serve on publicly and privately with my fiduciary duties. I also serve on a couple of paid advisory boards here in North America. So I deal with things that are going on in those companies in terms of traffic. And then I focus on mergers and acquisitions. I love buying companies and putting them into my portfolio for cash flow. And then I use that cash flow to buy more real estate through philanthropy investing. So I'm always about building financial wealth, but I'm actually not motivated by money. What I'm actually motivated by is making a difference by serving humanity. But I use money as a tool to serve humanity because I like to solve problems because entrepreneurs solve problems. So I like doing deals. I like working with people. I like creating jobs. I like making a difference in people's lives. But I like the challenge. I like seeing people that are, maybe challenged and they want to grow to the next level, but they need that advisory support, or they need that cash injection, or they need some mentors or coaches or people that have got experience with history and track records that have done it, have been there longer than them, that can show them how to grow and scale. I love doing that.
How much of your time do you dedicate between increasing cash flow and net worth and then focusing on philanthropy. Do you automate or outsource philanthropy as well?
Yeah, so I spend 2 hours of every day, non-negotiable time studying wealth. Whether it's talking to a mentor, it's watching videos on YouTube, it's listening to podcasts, it's reading. I spend 2 hours every day with that non-negotiable during the week hours of my day. I also exercise every day as well. I drink about a gallon of water every day. So I'm obsessed with that in terms of health and nutrition. It's very, very important to me. Also, relationship time with Tatiana is very important. And then I also focus on with our foundation, of growing and scaling that, but also thinking about, 250 years from now in terms of legacy planning, like generational wealth building. We're building Link Foundation, our global philanthropy foundation, for 250 years beyond our death. Like, we're thinking 3 generations out. And then the intention is we want the foundation to actually go bankrupt. We want it to go bust. We want it to blow up. In fact, I'd love to have it blow up in the next 10 years if we could actually go bust. That's my whole intention, is to drive it into the ground and make it go bust, because I want us to go out of business with our private family foundation. That's the whole intention, is to build this to go out of business, because there's so many foundations and organizations out there around the world that have been going for many years. They're not solving problems. They're just generating money. And to me, that's not how I live my life. When I get into this philanthropy and humanitarian stuff, I'm about solving problems and getting measurable results, and then solving that problem, going to the next problem. So some of these organizations have been around for many, many years. They're just cash generating machines that are not solving problems. And to me, that's a lack of integrity.
100% of the funds you raise goes to the project, right? To the ground roots.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we do is, I'm very good at multiplying money. And it comes from my backstory, like, reading my introduction of my story, people are like, oh my gosh, this guy's super successful. Well, I was a complete, you don't know my past. My backstory was, I never went to regular school. I was in special education classes from grade 1 to grade 12. I was labeled retarded. I was labeled a slow learner. I was once homeless on the streets, living on welfare, eating my next meal out of a garbage dumpster. In my 20s, I was, behind paying my bills a lot of times, 2, 3, 4 months behind. I had very low credit score. I had no integrity in my 20s, no integrity, completely out of integrity. Didn't even know what integrity was. And so I grew up, I matured by getting around different people and leveling up my responsibility, my accountability in my life. And now I'm in a relationship with an extraordinary woman who is the integrity police. She's got a PhD in integrity. I tell you that much, in terms of practicality. And I'm grateful for it, because I surround myself with really tough people. My inner circle is very tough. It's not easy to be around. It's uncomfortable every day, but it causes me to level up and skill up all the time. And that's the thing, is you want to get around people who will challenge you and not buy your stories, not buy your BS, that they'll confront you to hold you to the best standard of life that you possibly can. So when it comes to working out or exercising, and you want to, life gets busy, like, I don't want to exercise. No, Darren, you need to get on that bike. You need to go for that run. You need to go for that walk. You need to drink that water. It's non-negotiable. So those types of people, most people want to see comfortability is always available. Living your life, being comfortable is always available. People want you to be average and ordinary in society today. You walk down the street and say, how's your day? Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful, man. Things are rocking and rolling. A lot of times people are repelled by you. If you walk down the street and say, oh my gosh, my life's a disaster, let me tell you about all my problems. Oh, let me tell you about my problems too. And you attract people like that. I have no time for that. I want to do extraordinary things, because life is short and there's no guarantee we're going to go to bed tomorrow night. And it's not about me. I'm on a journey to serve humanity and be a go-giver and make a huge difference in people's lives. And to me, it's just a game. I just play a game now and say, okay, we're going to raise $100 million towards global philanthropy. Okay, let's put some smart people in a room. Let's collaborate. Let's whiteboard this. Let's flip chart this. And let's throw this around, best case scenario, worst case scenario. And let's pick the people on the team, and then let's grow and scale it. And then let's metric everything for performance, because if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. So I'm obsessed with the data and measuring things to know where you're at, so you can keep score, but also you can maintain integrity, because then you've got an audit trail. If somebody ever attacks you, you've got documentation to verify stuff that it's true and it's accurate, because all your I's and T's are dotted and crossed. So make sure you always document, and you always have a paper trail or a digital paper trail, and you always back up those trails, so that when people are doing their due diligence on you, you can verify everything you say. So when you make claims, like a lot of people on the internet do, and they can't back it up. So always trust, but always verify, always do your discovery and your due diligence. Most people, they're too lazy to do discovery process and due diligence. That's why they lose money. That's why things go sideways, because they didn't do their risk mitigation up front and their asset protection up front.
What's the best company you've ever done due diligence on?
I invest in a lot of things. There's always a risk, whether it's natural disasters, it's dealing with human beings or different personality styles. When I invest, Tatiana, I invest in boring companies. Like if you look at our portfolio of investments, nothing sexy. We don't do any speculation because we're not gamblers, because we're building for generational wealth, 3 generations for global philanthropy. So we invest in boring companies. When I look at mergers and acquisitions, I like accounting companies. I like companies that you would drive by in an industrial park that look like a hole in the wall in an industrial park, but the company's doing a few $1 million a year in revenue, top line revenue, got a good balance sheet. They got virtually no debt. They take care of their employees, and they're just hardworking people, but they want to go on to something else, or they want to retire, or they want to spend more time with their kids, more traveling, or they've got some challenges going on. Their life could be health challenges or relationship challenges or marital challenges, and they want to exit and get out. And so I don't chase the shiny objects. It's funny when people see me, like I'm more of an introvert type personality style. I'm an extrovert. I'm an introvert extrovert. I love people. I come across when I'm around people, I'm extroverted, but I like to be by myself primarily. And I like to invest in things that, I invest in car washes, right? Boring. I invest in second mortgages. I invest in a lot of single family homes in different neighborhoods throughout North America, and just different things. But guess what the difference is? It just produces cash flow. Like, it's funny when when I show people what I invest in and they're like, oh my gosh, you get those kind of returns. I'm like, yeah, it's boring, isn't it? But it's stable, it's consistent, and it's recurring. And because a lot of times people, they buy the hype and they buy the sizzle, and they don't realize that that can get them into trouble. So just find, sometimes when you go to an investment seminar, the quietest person in the room is the wealthiest person in the room, is the most knowledgeable, the most experienced person. Don't chase the fancy suits and the fancy car people, because a lot of times those people are broke. They're just a couple months away from being bankrupt. Like it's all sizzle, it's all hype, it's all show, it's all salesman show. And some of the people in my inner circle, when people meet them, like, oh my gosh, I would never know this person owns all that real estate or owns all that land or is doing all that stuff around the poor world in terms of charitable giving and stuff, because they're just I like to be low profile, high impact. Low profile, high impact.
Yeah, not about the person, not about me. It's all about serving humanity.
Yeah, because you can all be gone tomorrow, right? Yeah. You could have a heart attack or a stroke or something. And yeah, you can get insurances to protect all that. But at the end of your life, it matters about the difference you made in your life and other people's lives and the people that are around you. It's the memories, it's the life experiences. And I look at, just being a good person and making a difference and helping to solve. There's a lot of hardworking people out there, and I'm a hardworking person as well. I like to work smart, but I also remember where I come from. I had people, I was flat broke financially more than once in my life, that were there for me to help me pay my rent being late, help me with some outstanding bills, help me so I didn't go on the homeless again the second time. And I always remember those people, and you never forget where you come from. And it's a good indication when you're building your network, in your inner circle, is who are the people around you that like you for who you are, not what you do. Right? Because there's a lot of people, when you become more successful, you get on mailing lists, you get more visibility, you get more exposure, and then people just want to get around you. I get people, it's quite fascinating, James, with social media. And I'm not, I'm on it, but I'm not a big fan of it because I'm more of a private person, but I'm on it because I want to serve humanity, make a difference. But it's so interesting. Like I'll use LinkedIn or I'll use Facebook as some examples of social media sites. Somebody will send me a friend request and I'll accept the friend request. I don't even know who this person is. And within minutes, sometimes even seconds later, they're sending me a message that's cut and paste, and they're pitching me on a product or service, want me to recruit me to their opportunity. Yeah. And it's so transactional, and there's no relationship equity established. So I just delete them because this person is just, what's in it for me? Gimme, right? What can I take? And it's just transactional. It feels like a one night stand where you meet some guy or girl, right? It's like, I'm not into that. And so it's such a transactional world, whereas, successful people don't want to be pitched or sold. They want to be educated and informed. When I invest in companies all the time, when I sit down with somebody, either virtually or in person, and they start going into a pitch, I'm completely turned off. And there's 3 types of money. There's calm money, cautious money, and nervous money. My money goes from being calm to cautious and nervous. And I'm ready to walk up the door or end the video conferencing call or the telephone call. because this person is pitching and selling versus listening and asking questions. When I meet someone and I know they're an investor or they've got money or they want to look at investing in something or they're an entrepreneur or they're a business owner, I become curious about them. Why did you set up this business? How long have you been doing this for? How did you do your market research? Who's on your team? What have you done in your past? What was your first paying job you ever had? I ask a whole bunch of questions. If I'm talking to an investor, what's your appetite for investing? How much money are you looking to deploy? How long are you exposed for? What's your rates of return? What's your risk mitigation strategy? How does you deal with different things with taxes? Do you have an accountant? Do you have a lawyer that you deal with? Do you have a due diligence team? I ask a lot of questions. And by me just listening and asking questions, I build rapport, right? Dale Carnegie wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. So I just listen and ask a lot of questions. And I influence people by listening and asking questions. And by that, people build more rapport with you. They get to know you. They get to like you and trust you through the discovery process. And that leads to more opportunities and long-term relationships. I
remember when you reached out to me in May 2018 via LinkedIn. And I think I responded to you, like, why did you reach out? You said you like to meet new and interesting people. I was like, okay, all right, let's hop on a video call, let's talk face to face. And you're like, okay, let's do it. And then you asked me a whole bunch of questions for like, I think it was 3 months. And then you said, hey, James, do you want to ask me a question? And I'm like, yeah, how can I help you? And then, and it went from there. I'm so grateful for our relationship. It's been so great getting to know you and the impact that you're having in the world. That's why I wanted to interview you on the podcast. It's just see the work that you're doing in the world and creating generational income and impact. It's just so inspiring. So could you share more about your transition from, like you mentioned, how you were previously in your youth and your adolescence to becoming the type of person you are today, or will be more in integrity with who you are?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like, I grew up with very low self-esteem. I had no direction. I had no focus. I had no purpose. I barely passed public high school. I did multiple suicide attempts to end my life after I left high school because I was labeled a throwaway, most likely not to ever succeed. In school, I was a kid who was always the last kid picked on any sport team. I was a kid who you would never bet on. I felt invisible. I felt that I didn't matter. I felt that I was not good enough, not smart enough. I felt I was stupid. I had a lot of negative self-talk growing up. And what turned around for me was in the early 1990s when my final suicide attempt, drive my car at 140 kilometers an hour, 85 miles an hour towards a telephone pole. I stopped my car. I got scared and I drove about 20 minutes to a nonprofit organization that was a 24-hour crisis line, telephone crisis line. And I rang their doorbell and a lady came out and she's like, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to commit suicide. And I turned myself in and I asked for help. That was a big turning point for my life. And from there, they did some counseling with me and they introduced me to a Dale Carnegie training program. And then I went to Dale Carnegie and I financed that because I didn't have the money at the time. So I made payment plans over 12 months, monthly payments. And then I met a lady there who believed in me more than I believed in myself. And she invited me to a Toastmasters International meeting one day, to a Toastmasters club, and which is a global organization, largest public speaking leadership organization on the planet today, in many countries and many different languages across the planet. And my first day, I got up to introduce myself as a guest at a Toastmasters meeting. I had a name tag on. I was so scared. My knees were shaking underneath the table, but nobody could see them. And I got up as a guest to introduce myself at the Toastmasters meeting, and I forgot my name. Completely forgot my name. My mind just went completely blank. I was so nervous, so scared, way out of my comfort zone. And I had to look down to see what my name tag was, to see what my name was. And one of the Toastmasters members said, that's why you need Toastmasters. We're going to help you overcome that fear and build your confidence. And that's what was the turning point for me. I joined Toastmasters. And then my first icebreaker speech was in front of the Toastmasters Club. You had to do a 3 to 5 minute icebreaker, get to know the new club member, right? Who he or she is. And I was scared, man. I didn't sleep the night before. I was stressed out. I was worried. I was shaking. I was sweating. So I went to this hotel, walked around the hotel that night before the meeting started for Toastmasters. And I thought, you know what? What's worst possible case scenario? I'm doing some scenario planning in my mindset. I'm thinking, what if I pull the hotel fire alarm and I evacuate this hotel during the Toastmasters break? Because we have two parts of the Toastmasters. We have the first part, and they take a 15-minute break, and then they come back, and then we get ready for the second part of the Toastmasters meeting to finish off the end of the meeting. So during the 15-minute break, I thought, what if I go out and pull the fire alarm and I delay the Toastmasters meeting, I can buy myself a couple of weeks and get back on the meeting schedule, and I got some more time to buy it. So I thought, worst case scenario, you know what? I'm not going to get a criminal record. I'll probably get fined. I can pay that off. I might get in trouble with Toastmasters meeting. Okay, fine. I can deal with that. I can restore my integrity. So I pulled a hotel fire alarm. And what happened was, it was an internal alarm. They didn't evacuate the hotel. The front desk of the hotel just contacted the maintenance department. One of the maintenance personnel came down and reset the fire alarm in the hotel, and the meeting went on. And that was a turning point, because there's a lady by the name of Sue Urquhart who was in that Toastmasters meeting as a general evaluator, and she saw potential in me, and she believed more in me than I believed in myself. And she planted a seed in my mindset. She said that evening, it was in January of 1995, she said, I believe that we could potentially mentor Darren Jacklin to becoming a world-class speaker and a leader and influencing lots of people. And I'm like, wow, you don't even know who I am. Like, those are big words. Like, those words carry weight. No one's ever believed in me like that before. You know, none of my teachers in school were like that. My environment. I'm like, wow, those are some heavy words. They carry a lot of weight. And I'm thinking, wow, that means a lot. And June of 1995, I started, calling companies to build a corporate training business. I used to make 400 cold calls a day. And between 1995 and the year 2000, I made over 100,000 cold calls, sometimes 3, 4, 5 months behind on paying my phone bills. But I got trained. I got trained as a telemarketer with a company called Maclean's Magazine in Canada. They had outsourced their telemarketing division back in the 1990s. And so I worked with the company that for Maclean's Magazine. And we used to have to make 400 cold calls in a 4-hour shift, selling news or magazine subscriptions over the telephone. And with 7 months, I was the #1 telemarketer in Canada for that company. And then my boss told me, he said, Darren, you can't go any further. You need to step out on your own. And that was the day I realized, oh my gosh, this is scary, but I want to claim my future. And so I made mass amounts of phone calls, tremendous amount of, I'm rejection proof to this day, because I've overcome so much adversities and failures and challenges. But you know what I discovered in all this, James? All this rejection? I had a huge awakening, huge life pivoting moment in my life. What I discovered with all this rejection is that all we are is a network of conversations with human beings. That's all we are. We're just human beings running around in our meat suits. If we're up in the International Space Station looking down on planet Earth, we're just seeing all these human beings running around in meat suits and avatars. There's no countries, there's no continents, there's no time zones. We're just we're all in this global village on this spinning planet called planet Earth together from the International Space Station looking down. And we're just a network of conversations. Yeah. So anything we really want in our lives is going to come from strangers, but we need to learn how to make requests.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So many people think they teach their kids don't talk to strangers, and it closes them to opportunities.
Yes. And yet strangers have everything you want, everything you need, everything you desire in your life. And the key thing is that I'm always talking to people, because at the end of the day, we're in the people business. We're in the relationship building business. Nothing is going to come from you, right? And the key thing is if you want to make a lot more money, solve bigger problems. See, there's no lack of money in the world. Like, we don't have money problems in life. We have thinking problems. There's no lack of money. A lot of my friends have money problems. They have so much money coming in, they don't know what to do with it. I deal with people with money problems all the time. So when people tell me I got money problems, I go, great. You don't have enough money or you have too much money? Which one is it? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, do you have an abundance of money coming in from multiple different sources? Well, no, I don't have enough money. Great. How to make more money? How do you make more money? Just look around. Watch the news media tonight. There's the gold mine. Whatever they're complaining about, see, for every problem that somebody has, an industry is created. You got a back problem, you'll go see a chiropractor, massage therapist, a reflexologist, an acupuncturist, a rofer. You'll get a medication. You go see a doctor. You'll go see a fitness instructor. You know what I mean? You have marital problems. You go see a counselor, a psychologist. You might take medication. You might read a book, might take a course, might take a class, might get a coach, might get a mentor, right? You have electrical issues in your home. You'll hire an electrician. Right? There's tradespeople. People don't realize that whenever somebody's complaining, like when I'm talking to business owners and they're complaining, and I'm on an airplane and the guy's like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I got this company. I'm like, what's your biggest challenge? Oh, I got this and this, all these deficiencies. I'm like, okay, great. Are you interested in selling your company? He's like, what do you mean? So you got all these deficiencies. Are you interested in selling your company? Yeah. Okay, great. What are you looking to sell for? And they give me a number. Okay, great. How could we structure to get to that number? I can buy companies with no money. As long as they've been around for a few years and they got monthly recurring cash flow If this person's got enough pain points and they want to get out, there's ways that you can structure things that are win-win with fair means of exchange of integrity, that you can structure things that you can create an exit strategy for that person and they can leave and they win and you win. And there's it's just how you have a conversation and build rapport and how you structure it. And so people get so confirmed, like, oh my gosh, I got to buy a company. How much does it cost? Don't focus on the cost. Focus on building the relationship. Focus on being in the people business. Focus on building the relationship with the other people that are involved and find out what they want. What do they need to complete this deal and move on with their life? Find out what they want. Help them get what they want in their lives. Help them win. And then they'll help you win. And you'll make it a win-win situation. And everybody wins. And the company can move on and thrive.
Yeah, that's a law of reciprocity, as part of it anyway.
Yeah.
But, when you give and give, you give to give, right? It's give and receive, but you give to give.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like I had somebody just recently, I was talking to one of the parents, good friend of mine, their kids are just graduating from school this year, high school. And their one son wants to go off and get an MBA. And I'm like, why does he want to get an MBA? Well, he wants to get into business. And I'm like, okay, so what's he going to get when he graduates from his university or college? He's going to complete a degree, get an MBA. He's going to have tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt. And he's going to have to go out and apply and look for a job. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, what do you mean? I said, what I would do is I would go find somebody who's already really successful geographically where you live. Somebody who's really, really successful. And I would go to them and say, listen, I want to apprentice with you and I'm willing to pay you $50,000 or $100,000 to apprentice with you this year. This could be a family office, a high net worth, ultra high net worth family, a person of influence. It could be a family run business that's been around for generations or a very high profile family that's known in the community for taking care of a lot of employment opportunities. And I'd go to them and I'd say, listen, I'm willing to come to you and pay to apprentice with you. I'll show up here every day and you can give me assignments. You can delegate things to me. I'm going to pay you what I would pay to go get my MBA. I'm going to give you my tuition dollars. Be like, why would you ever do something like that? The reason why is because the thing is, what happens is you get a chance to learn practical, hands-on, in the trenches information. Not only that, what you're doing is you get a chance to see who's in their network, their inner circle. You get a chance to see how they have systems, strategies, processes. You get a chance to travel with them, be in meetings, be in boardroom meetings with them, how they're on the phone calls, how they're doing emails, how they're text messaging, how they're interacting with you. You get immersed in that environment. And guess what? When your apprenticeship is done, they may create an opportunity for employment opportunities to pay you. If not, they may introduce you to somebody in their inner circle, which now you don't have to go out and apply for a job and send out resumes and go through all the gatekeepers and all the interviews. You just compress time. And now you set up to be on a winning team. Like that's what I would do. Like, I don't know why people spend all that money going to get these degrees. Tatiana, my partner in life, has 3 academic degrees from the top universities in Canada. And she's been, she worked in the academia world for many years. She came with me in the last 5 years. She's accomplished more in terms of success, more in terms of her health, relationships. Her bank account is unbelievably abundant. In terms of what she's done. So many different things have changed in her life. Why? Because she got around someone like me. So the key thing is proximity is power. Who you spend your time with is who you become. So choose wisely, but start getting around people. When people always say to me like, oh, my life's not working. Well, because it's because of your peer group, who you're spending time with. Right? If you're like, I know in my life, right? When I was flat financially broke in my life, I looked at my environment. I was hanging out with 4 broke friends. All 5 of us were broke financially, and we were borrowing money off each other. I remember we'd put $5 worth of gas in our tank and it'd be on E, and we're driving around thinking, wait a second, this is crazy. We're all driving around. All of us can't even afford a tank of gasoline. When we go to a restaurant, we go to the cheapest restaurants and we're trying to split the meal, everybody like that. I said, I want to go to a restaurant with friends where when the bill comes, we're fighting over who's going to pay the bill. That's the friends I want. We're like, no, I'm paying it. No, I'm paying it. No, give it to me. Give it to me. Like, that's the friends I hang out with. They're like, no, Darren, not like, no. And we're fighting over the bill and there's chaos. And like, no, I'm paying for it. No, I'm paying for it. No, it's my turn. It's my turn. That's the friends you want to get around. It's like when you go on a vacation, it's like, hey man, listen, we're going to go on a helicopter ride. It goes, no, I'm paying for it. No, I'm paying for it. No, I'm paying for it, man. Like, no. And it's competitive giving. That's the kind of people you want to get around, because we're coming from abundance and prosperity versus lack and scarcity. That's the difference. Do you hang out with people who come from abundance and prosperity mindset versus lack and scarcity? People say, well, I don't know. Well, next time you go into a restaurant, notice how you read the menu. Most people read the menu from right to left. How much does things cost? What's the price? Then they decide what they're going to order. Mostly when they take a vacation, they shop online for the best deal, the best time of the year. Then they pick the hotel, the rental car, they pick the airline tickets, all that kind of stuff. So what if you can just say, hey, you know what? I want to travel and I just want to, whatever it takes, whatever it costs. Because you can always go out and earn more money. That's what boggles my mind today, is that whatever you want is available on the internet, is available on YouTube. You can get people around you. Like, you want to have better health, start watching videos on YouTube. You want to learn more about spirituality, there's lots of people on the YouTube. You want to learn more about finances, building a business, there's lots of great role models and great examples of people.
Yeah,
right? Success leaves clues.
Yeah, wealth of information. It's incredible. And the most popular, I think, our most profitable channel on YouTube is a child doing toy reviews. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting. I met a few years ago. I was flying from San Francisco, California to New York City. It's on a United Airlines flight. And I had the aisle seat, and this young girl beside me had the window seat. The middle seat was empty. And she was looking out the window, young girl, beautiful looking girl. And so we got talking during the flight from San Francisco to New York. And I said, where are you off to? She goes, I'm going to New York. I said, oh, good. I said, what brings you to New York? And she goes, I'm going there for work. I said, oh, yeah. And I said, what type of work do you do? And she goes, I'm a model. I said, oh, cool. New York's a big city for modeling. She goes, yeah. I said, what kind of modeling do you do? Like runway modeling? Do you do Victoria's Secret? What are you doing? She goes, no, I'm a hand model. I said, you're a hand model? She goes, yeah. She shows me her hands. I'm like, wow. She wouldn't let me touch her hands because, you know, she was very protective of her hands. I said, wow. I said, wow. I said, so you're a hand model? She goes, yeah. She goes, if you ever see a jewelry magazine or a jewelry catalog or on the internet, you see jewelry websites and you see them with diamond rings or with engagement or wedding rings, I'm one of the hand models and I do very well. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, so is this like a side thing do you do? Like, is this a full-time opportunity? Like, do you pay your bills with this? Like, can you make a living, or do you have a full-time job and you do this on the side? She's like, no, I do this full-time. I'm like, wow, okay. So I'm just like curious, like, and you don't have to answer my question, but I said, I'm just curious. I'm fascinated about people. I just want to learn more about your industry because I know nothing about this. What would you make a year doing this? Right? Because you're living in San Francisco, you're going to New York City. Both cities are expensive, right? What would that be? And she goes, I make about $300,000 a year. I said, you make $300,000 US dollars a year modeling your hands? She goes, yes. I'm like, wow, I would never, ever imagine that. I said, do you have a degree? No, I don't have a degree. I have very good hands. I lotion my hands. I take care of my hands. You know, it was sunlight. And it was so interesting because she talked to me about, you know, how she exposed her hands with sunlight to different kinds of lotions that she uses, to hand movement exercises, because her hands got to be beautiful because they sell expensive jewelry. So, you know, I got a video sent to me recently of a gentleman on YouTube who farts. And you can go online. This guy just farts, and he gets millions of views, and he generates all this ad revenue. So I talked to one of my friends, do some research on this, and he come back. He said, Darren, this guy makes 7 figures, makes over $1 million a year, entertaining people with his farts. He has no education. All he does is just fart on YouTube, and it circulates. You know, because people see it and they laugh. Like right now, you're going to go check it out. People listening, like, I got to check this guy out. Well, guess what? When you check it out, he gets paid. When he checks it out, he gets paid. That's the thing, is he wants millions of people to circulate around the planet. Like, oh my gosh, you gotta check this guy out. Can you believe this guy makes this kind of money? He sends it out to 20 of his friends. They send it to a few more friends. It creates a ripple effect, and he gets paid each time.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it's interesting. So I always share with people, like, that whenever people have adversities or challenges, always blessings in disguise or opportunities in disguise.
And on that note, pun intended, is there anything you'd like to say in finishing, closing the call? Would you like to share anything, like a main message or a piece of advice or insight?
Well, you know, a couple of things are. One is, if you want to do more things in your life in terms of living life on your terms, having an extraordinary life, is for every question that we don't ask, the answer is always no. So for every question we don't ask, the answer is always no. And what you want to do is you want to start making requests. Okay. So first of all, you want to look at what are you promising your life with? Like what are you giving promise to? Like what's your goals, what's your dreams, what's your desires, what's your intentions? And then what do you give your word to, right? Because your word becomes your will. Your word becomes law. If you really look at what you speak out of your mouth, your words are so powerful, but most people don't realize how powerful their words are. So number one is, what do you give your word to in terms of what are you promising? And then once you promise something to consider is all your goals and dreams do not require your actions. It's a mindset shift. All your goals and dreams do not require your actions. It involves creating teams and teamwork to fulfill on that. So what I want to leave people with today is 2 questions that I'd like you to go work on your life. And I'd love for you to give me feedback in the next couple of weeks, couple of months on these questions, because if you go to work on these questions, like it's life or death and it matters to you, you will discover incredible, specific and measurable and actionable results by doing this. Question number 1 is, where am I not requesting in my life? So I just want you to do an audit. I want you to take an inspection, self-awareness into your life. Just take a look at your life, personally, professionally. What's an area of your life that has no workability, that's not working in your life? What's an area where you're stopped, that's not giving you joy or fulfillment or freedom? What's an area that you're stopped in your life, personally or professionally, and that area you're stopped because you're not making requests? Okay, step number 1. Step number 2 is, so number 1 is, where am I not requesting in my life? Question number 2 is, who do I become when I'm not making requests? So just take a look at yourself as a human being. Who do you become? So when I'm not making requests, I'm impatient, I'm dictatorial, I'm aggressive, I'm insensitive, I'm coming from lacking scarcity versus abundance of prosperity, I'm playing very small, I'm contracting, shrinking in my life. When I'm making requests, I'm playing a big game. I'm serving humanity. I'm loving people. I'm generous. I'm giving. I'm loving. I'm caring. I'm nurturing. I'm a contributor. I'm a difference maker. I'm a go-giver. So you want to get in, you want to start making requests. And when you make requests, people only do one of 3 things. Step number 1 is they'll accept the request. Step number 2 is they'll decline the request. Or step number 3 is they'll counter offer the request. So they'll accept it, decline it, or counter offer it. And the cool thing is, so when you go to a restaurant, make a request for a not free, but make a request for a complimentary dessert. You see, in restaurants, when people are upset, they don't like the meal, they call over the manager or the owner. Person comes by, how's your meal? I was lousy. I didn't like the steak or whatever we were eating. And they're like, okay, we'll give you comp dessert, right? We'll give you a complimentary meal. We'll give you a discount. So why should you reward bad behavior? Why not, if I'm having a great experience and I might take a picture and I might put it on my social media, and some people do on Instagram and social media. If I'm having a great positive experience, you want me to come back again. You want me to be a reoccurring guest. So why don't, what gets rewarded gets repeated. So catch people doing things right. So the hard cost on that dessert is minimal, but the return on your investment, the upside is astronomical over a period of time. So accept, decline, or counter offer. So start catching people doing things right, but start making requests. Like I make requests all the time in business. Every time I save money, I take that money, I put into my savings account, build it up, and I then put it into an income producing asset. Throughout a calendar year, I generate thousands of dollars in savings that I then get that money into an income producing asset that's now producing cash flow or dividends for me on a monthly or quarterly basis. Just by making requests where people will accept, decline, or counter offer. Now, the thing is, people are like, oh my gosh, it's so hard to do. Yeah, because you're self-centered. See, think about how you can serve and make a difference.
That's what I was well, with the request, it's not always just a request to receive, but a request to give as well.
Absolutely, all the time. Yeah, all the time. You know, the big thing is in business, champion other people, help them. You know, like people always ask me, they go, Darren, how do you meet all these people all the time? I start sending them business with no attachment. No attachment. I just start sending people business. There's people I just start sending them business, paying customers, paying clients, right? And then all of a sudden, like I'll give you a quick example. So I remember years ago, here in Vancouver, Canada, there was a gentleman who flew in from Toronto. He's a big CEO. He's retired now. This big, high-profile CEO from Toronto, owned all kinds of companies. The guy I wanted to meet, big influence guy in Canada. And I thought, wow, I'd like to meet this guy. So I didn't have the money to buy a VIP ticket at this conference. There's like 600-700 people at this conference. I didn't have the money to buy a VIP ticket. I could only afford general admission. I was in the back, right? I thought, wow. So I go there and I'm hungry, right? I'm hungry to learn. Got my journal. I'm taking notes. This guy's on the panel. He's a big guest speaker. He's a big draw for the people there. I'm like, wow, this guy's incredible. So I take home the brochures and I look up this on the website of the address. And I thought, wow. So I applied what this guy learned during the panel discussion, during the question and answer. And I applied it and I earned a bunch of money. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take 10% net income of what I earn off this. And I'm going to get him a money order. And I'm going to send it to him by mail. And I'm going to send him a check. And I'm going to put him in a thank you card. I'm going to thank him for coming to Vancouver, Canada, and for doing this event, being a guest speaker, because he made a difference in my life, even though I've never met this guy. So I went down to the post office. I got a money order, put it into a nice little envelope with a stamp, did a thank you card, sent it off by the mail. Probably about 6 weeks later, around that time, 6 weeks later, I get a phone call because I put my phone number and stuff in the thank you card. I get a phone call from the accounting department. And they call me up and they go, may I speak to Mr. Darren Jacklin, please? I said, yeah, this is Darren Jacklin. They go, hi, this is so-and-so. I think it was Amy was the lady's name from the accounts payable department, accounts receivable department of this company. And she's like, we're trying to figure out a debt entry situation here. We can't figure this out. I'm like, what? And she goes, well, you sent us this money, but you're not onboarded into our system. We don't have you in our database. So we don't know how to data entry this. And we're just trying to figure out who you are. Like, why would you send us money? Like, we don't have an invoice. We don't have no paper trail. There's no contract. Like, we don't know who you are. Like, why are you sending us money? Like, what's the story here? So I explained that, this guy flew from Toronto to Vancouver. I went to this event. I was a participant in the event. I was so moved by this guy. I went and applied what I learned from him. And I want to pay him a percentage of what I learned in terms of mentorship fees. And she's like, wow, okay. And she says, all my years of business, I've never seen somebody, never run across somebody ever doing something like this before. And she goes, our founder is very entrepreneurial and he loves people and he's getting up there in age. And would it be okay if I share this with him? I think he'd be really inspired to hear this story about him flying because he doesn't always like getting on airplanes. He'd be inspired from going from Toronto to Vancouver and coming there. I'm like, absolutely. She's okay. So anyways, about a week goes by. I get a phone call back from the lady. She goes, listen, he was so taken back by the story about what you do with the generosity. Would you be all right if he set up a one-on-one phone call with you of just you and him? I'm like, wow. Because that's why I went there. I wanted to meet the guy. But I didn't have the money to pay for the VIP tickets. So I was general admission. And all these people wanted to meet him. So I'm like the back of the line. And I'm like, yeah. So I said, great. So what I did is I thought, okay, let's plan out a few weeks down the road so I can be prepared, so I can really leverage this time and make it most effective, most efficient when I've got this 1 hour time with him or 20 minutes, or whatever period of time it was, that I can maximize that time by asking him some specific questions. And I want to ask him some very high level questions that really get him to think, right? And so I put a few weeks out on the calendar and I prepared that call and it was extraordinary. What was interesting was this guy was so moved by my preparation, my pre-planning, my questions that I asked him. He said, Darren, we got a few minutes left before I have to go to my next meeting. Tell me a little about yourself. So I told my backstory of my corporate training background. I told him where I grew up. I told him things about that were relevant to him because I did my research. I did my homework on the guy. And the guy said to me, he says, Darren, I meet with my executive team once a year. We do an offsite and we do an annual executive retreat, usually around the greater Toronto area, around Niagara Falls, around the area here. And, I'd be willing to bring you as a guest speaker. We don't have much of a budget, but we'd be willing to pay you $10,000 for the day to come in. We'll pay for your flight, put you on Air Canada. We'll fly you from Vancouver to Toronto, pay for your hotel for the night, the Fairmont Hotel downtown, and we'll take care of it. We only got a budget for $10,000 plus your travel expenses, but we think you'd be great. Would that be something you'd want? I'm thinking, wow, I didn't have the money to even freaking get in the event. I had to scrape by to get whatever I could to get money together, just pay for the ticket to get to the event a few months earlier. And now the guy's offering to pay me $10,000 plus my travel expenses to fly from Vancouver to Toronto to now go do an offsite a few months from now for his executive team. I'm like, wow. Because what did I do? I paid it forward up front. I paid it forward. I was a go-giver. I built relationship equity. I built relationship equity. and I got attention. Money follows attention. Always remember that. Money follows attention. And I wasn't expecting like that. I was just so grateful for the telephone call to have a one-on-one session with this gentleman. I was so appreciative of that. But I didn't think it was going to lead to having him hire me to go do an offsite for corporate training for his company, for his executives. I had no idea. That wasn't part of my plan, my strategy. I just wanted to connect and contribute and be in service to this guy and build some relationship equity.
Yeah, that's amazing. But it's a universal principle. That's, as soon as you give out selflessly, I've got no expectations to receive anything in return. It's just a full-on selfless giving act that it multiplies. And
it does. Yeah, it does. Even in business, if you're traveling, I've met lots of people on the airplanes over the years. People sit beside me, we get into a conversation. Some people don't want to talk to you. Some people want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, great. Would you mind if I have your contact information? I follow up with you, and all of a sudden James introduces me to somebody. And all of a sudden I'm like, wow, this person introduced me to this person. We're doing business together. You know what? James is the connector. I want to make sure he gets paid. So I'd send you a nice handwritten thank you card. I'd mail it off to you with a check or a money order in there. And I even had people call me and say, hold on a second here. Like this is more money in a month by this referral check than what I make at my job. Why do I, I'm not open to receiving this. I'm like, that's great. You can tear it up. You can give it to a local charity or church group. You can send it back to me. We'll redirect it to a charity or cause that you want to support. Just tell us the direction to pay of how you want us to do that. We'll make that happen and get your receipt. It's really interesting what you do. But I tell you, when you start paying people and cutting them in on things in terms of abundance and prosperity, you imagine how people start to pay attention to you. Be generous with people. And this is some of the mistakes that I made early on when I was starting a business, was I wasn't generous. I was scraping by. I was in such survival and fear mode and lack and scarcity mode. And then when I started to get around successful people, I started to watch what they do, because success leaves clues. I thought, wow, these people are abundant. They're generous. They believe that everybody must win, because without integrity, nothing works. There's no workability.
It's not the other way around. Most people think, you can be generous when you become wealthy, but you be generous and then wealth follows that. Like you said,
money just magnifies who you are, right? Because behavior never lies. So money just magnifies who you are. And people always ask me, they go, why is integrity so important? Or why are my actions what I do, or who I spend time with, or who I associate with, or who I hang out with? Why is it so important? And I always say that time will promote you or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time. We see that with COVID-19, people being in the pandemic. They're now at home. A lot of people have gained a lot of weight, right? Because they're in front of a computer, they're at home, they're not commuting, they're not exercising, and they're just stuck in front of a computer at home, and they've gained a lot of weight because they got exposed, because they're like, hey, the fridge is a lot closer now because I'm in my home versus taking my lunch to work, right? Or riding the subway, or commuting in traffic, or walking to work, or cycling to work. The refrigerator is much closer to my home computer. And they've gained weight because throughout that 6, 8, 10, 12 month period of time. So time will promote you or time will expose you. It's just a matter of time. So if you're willing to do what's hard, life will become easier. If you do what's easier in life, life will become harder.
Yeah, that is transformational. That is so many knowledge bombs, so many wisdom bombs. As always, Darren, it's been such a privilege speaking with you and learning from your experience in life and your goals to create a ripple of impact going into the future 250 years. So it's why I wanted to have you on the show, to be able to share this with more people and for them to understand that they can contribute a lot more. And it really comes down to being that person, being in integrity with who they really are, and the circumstances will respond to their growth. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're a prime example of that. It's so grateful for you to be sharing this with people, sharing your story. So Darren, is there any website you want people to visit, something that you're doing, or anything that you want people to take a look at?
A way that I can be in service and contribute to people's lives is, the last 25 years, I've had over 300 book publishers approach me to write a book. I had no interest in ever writing a book. And then during the global pandemic, I was doing my estate plan, end of life planning, just in case. And I came across all my journals I write a journal every day. And I thought, I got all these cases of journals I'm going to give to my nieces and nephews upon my death. I thought, you know what? Why don't I pay it forward now while I'm alive? There's a lot of valuable information throughout the peaks and valleys of my life that's very practical to really put into a book and to really provide massive value to people from all walks of life all over the planet. So the book's coming out in June of this year. People are pre-ordering. We're going to have 50,000 pre-order copies of it. We've got people calling us up ordering lots of copies to give away on humanitarian trips, to give away to families, to schools, all that stuff. So you can either purchase a single copy or multiple copies and give them out to people when the book comes out. But the website is untilibecome.com, untilibecome.com, and order a copy. This will be a life-changing book. Again, we don't need to read more books. We're drowned in knowledge today, but we're starving for wisdom. But this is a book that you'll want to pass along to your kids, your family, your coworkers. This is a book that you'll want to have and be proud to have in your library of your home or your office. And this is a book that probably after you read it, you'll say, hey, I'm going to buy multiple copies and give it away to my family or friends and people that matter to me in my life. This is a no fluff book, but it's a book that I wish somebody would have given to me when I was growing up as a roadmap to help guide me in my life. It's very practical. And there's a lot of stuff in this book that people will read that have never read anywhere before. People say, well, why do you make that claim? Because a lot of my mentors that I've learned stuff from have never written books. You wouldn't know them to be public in media or that stuff. They're just very low profile people, hardworking people, have done very well in their lives, but don't want the visibility, don't want the exposure.
And I know personally from knowing you as well, I know there's going to be a lot of awesome content. So that's Until I Become, one word.
Yeah, untilibecome.com.
Awesome. So thanks again for being on the show, Darren. I really appreciate having this conversation with you and being able to share it with the world.
Great. Well, I appreciate this. Cool. Thank you for allowing me to be here, James.
Hey there, James M. Powell here, the spirituality coach. Thank you for listening to the Spirituality Podcast. Have you ever wondered what makes the difference between a high achiever and everyone else? Well, a lot of high achievers still feel inadequate, and it's called the I'm not enough syndrome. It comes from a history of either abuse, neglect, or some other trauma, and usually from early in their life. Now, what really makes the difference in becoming a high achiever, regardless of how you feel about yourself or what you've experienced in life, is in learning how to make highly successful decisions repeatedly. The problem is that most people don't know how to make higher quality decisions in such a way that takes them from average to awesome or from awesome to exceptional in terms of accomplishing their goals. But every high achiever I've spoken to or studied has in fact used a natural and unlimited in its potential human attribute to make their most successful decisions, and yet which remains untapped for most people. I've personally used this attribute to make decisions that have enabled me to fund a project to $1 million in a matter of just a couple of months, as well as to overcome cancer 3 times in 3 years by making an informed decision to say no to chemotherapy and find a more natural alternative to healing. I've also used it to be able to interview on this podcast some of the world's highest achieving entrepreneurs, from presidential advisors to multimillionaires and billionaires, and globally influential personalities. So if you want to know how to make that difference in your life or business so you can go from average to awesome or from awesome to exceptional, then I'd like to tell you and show you. Sign up with your email at thespiritualitypodcast.com and get 7 days of no fluff complimentary training from me directly so you can learn exactly what you need to get started in making higher quality decisions, just like the world's highest achieving entrepreneurs, so you can start experiencing higher quality outcomes in your life and business. Subscribe at thespiritualitypodcast.com now to get started in your 7 days of training completely for free.